Hello everyone, it's Mary. Welcome back to the channel. I might feel like I have a little bit of a pep in my step, and that's because I finally got a sponsor. I'm so excited. Ask and ye shall receive. I put it out there months ago that I was looking for sponsorships for the channel. It's all new territory for me, and more than a couple actually, companies reached out. But I have to say that there was a couple that I was like, no, that's not really for my channel. And I know that sponsorships don't necessarily have to match up what your channel genre is, but I really didn't want to talk about, like, I don't know, heating pads for my back, or in some case some really other kind of weird things. So, however, today's sponsor comes in the way of Skillshare, and that is right up my alley and yours too. And so I'm very excited to talk about them. So I'm going to walk you through just a really quick tutorial of the website and what Skillshare is.
So I'm going to jump us into a part of the computer you can see it closer. All right, so let's take a quick look inside. Right here is the home page, and before you get into this, Skillshare is actually going to prompt you to talk about some of the things that you're interested in. It doesn't mean that you can't search other things, it just means it'll kind of get you set up from the start. So if you want to browse, you can look over here and just look at some of those kind of categories that you might be wanting to niche down into. So you can check there, or you can look at learning paths. Learning paths is basically, it says reach your learning goals with hand-picked sequential classes, and so this will take you through multiple of one class or one particular topic that you're looking for. And then if all else fails, you can just go right up here and type in what you want to take a class in. And so I'm going to type in photography, and as you can see, there's over 2,000 results here. You can filter it down, you can look at class length, class level. It's really high-end, very professional, super impressed with Skillshare. I used Skillshare probably now over a year ago, and I was taking a photography class and I learned so much. So really great opportunity. And if I can be so bold as to suggest that if there is something that you want to learn and you invest in it, even if it's not that much money, but you put something towards it, there's an element of drive, discipline, and motivation that's going to kick in too. So I feel like when I've purchased things that are going to advance me and things I'm investing in myself, I've taken it more seriously and I've actually taken action on it. So that's just my additional little tidbit for you there. But check out Skillshare. All the details will be listed below. All right, so let's dive into this project here today. I am going to be pulling out this embossing paste from scrapbook.com. Now, when this first came out, it sold out. So I know there's a lot of you out there that have it. So I thought, you know, it's been sitting on my desk for a few weeks. I might want to pull this out and start playing. So I did. And one thing I have to say is it's hard inside the container. The moment you put it on your palette and you start mixing it around, it becomes this creamy, buttery type substance. It's really like Cool Whip. And so I wanted to point that out because it does look pretty hard in the container itself. So I was like, uh-oh, is this dried out? It's not. It's very weird how the consistency changes so quickly. Well, this is the trick I want to show you, is that you can heat set this embossing paste and it'll dry almost instantaneously. So the top, I put a thinner layer. The bottom, you can see I put this really thick layer. I'm still able to touch it. It's not wet. It's just moving around a bit. And then I'm going to show you here the next day what it looks like completely dried. Now, I was kind of finagling with it, and so that's why it looks textured, but textured is fun. And so you can make really cool clouds with this, but I'm going to show you how you can even dry this when you're using a stencil to do your work. So I'm going to pull out first this background that I had already done, and I did that with ink blending, and then I'm going to pull out the stars. Okay, so there are many ways you can get this sort of look. You can use embossing ink and then embossing powder, but I'm going to be using this embossing paste because it gives an even more raised effect for the stencil. So if I'm using embossing ink, it's going to be way more flat than if I'm using this paste. So the paste is going to give me a raised look. So I just put this on I'm using a Dollar Tree craft mat, by the way. Actually, it's not even a craft mat. I think it's a cutting board. They come two to a pack. I like it because I can move it around on my surface, which I didn't know was convenient until I did it. So I get the embossing paste on my stars, and then I'm going to go in with some silver glitter embossing powder. Okay, so Now I'm going to be able to, because it's the paste is wet, I'm going to be able to pull or pour this powder all over my stars, okay? So that's the intent here. Now, I was experimenting, so I wasn't quite sure how this was going to work, but I'm showing you now you can heat up the embossing powder and dry the embossing paste at the same time. When I was finished with that, it was completely dry to the touch. And it didn't warp my paper that much. It did a little bit, but not like what I thought it was going to. So here I'm showing this to you up close, and now I'm just going to put the card together. Now, because it did warp a little bit, I want to flatten that out with some double-sided adhesive. You could use foam tape, you can use just regular adhesive. I went with the whole back covered with 3 different sizes of foam tape, but obviously, you know, whatever works for you, I just had it on hand. That is going to flatten that out completely. And so I'm going to place this down on my card base, and I'm actually going to cut the base down. That's why I left that white there. I'm going to cut off the top. For slimline cards, I know that there's no like standard measurement. It's whatever you want to make it. So you can make mini ones, big ones. So I'm just going with this. Then I take out some old die cuts that I have already made. A lot of this stuff was already made. That's why I'm not doing it on camera, because I keep a stash of sentiments, of embellishments, all that kind of stuff, just to make my card making a lot faster and more simple. And then I'm going to cut off the remaining pieces of my die cuts here, which are these beautiful clouds. I'm going to add the sentiment yay onto the front. I feel like this card screams celebratory, and so that's how I'm going to make the sentiment go. And I'm going to put yay in the center and then go you right there on the bottom. Now, to make this set well, I am using Barely Art glue, but I need to put something heavy on top of it because it's going over embossing paste and glitter, which is kind of raised up. And so just keep that in mind. You want something, and it holds really strongly, but you want something to press it down. All right, so that is the first card. Now, I skipped a bunch of steps on this one because I wanted to show you, but I took the same embossing paste and I mixed it with a little bit of Pink Flamingo, I believe, or Kitsch Flamingo, something like that, from Distress Oxide line. And I mixed that to get this really light, beautiful pink. I'm just showing you up close. Here you can see the raised bubble looks. When you're heating it, it does raise it even more and sort of bubble it tiny bit. Not like the snow marker, if you're familiar with that. Not as much, not as dramatic as that, but it does do that. So you're getting an embossing paste with a little bit of even more texture. It's super fun. If you have this stuff, you got to try it. It may work with other embossing pastes. I haven't tried it yet, but I do have the Ulta New paste. I'll give that a go later. But yeah, just have fun. Experiment with the stuff that you have. I was really, really pleased to see you can get this additional kind of technique with it. So this one, again, pulling out stuff I've had in my stash that I've promised myself I will use one day. So I'm finally making that day today. I've had that heart in there for months, maybe years. I don't know. So it was time. And so I'm just making this, maybe this Galentine's card for one of my friends. And yeah, so that'll finish off that card. Loved this technique. I hope you give it a try. It was super, super fun. And also it's helping us use up the supplies that we have in our stash. All right, that'll do it for this quick hack with the Cloud Whip embossing paste from scrapbook.com. Thanks so much for joining me. Thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring today's video. I hope you'll check it out. Again, all those details will be listed below. A couple other things below in the description box will be all of the supplies that I showed in this video if you want to look at them closer, as well as a link to join my email list where I send out freebies and updates and all that good stuff. Thanks again for being here. I'll see you all in the comments down below and in the next video. Bye-bye.